Rosa had been working for the wealthy family for almost 3 years now. She knew every corner of the big house, every creak in the wooden floors, and every preference of the family she served. The master of the house was a busy man who owned several companies and traveled a lot. His wife was kind, but often stressed, and their little baby girl was the light of everyone's life. That Tuesday evening started like any other. Rosa was finishing her cleaning duties when she received an urgent phone call. Mrs. Catherine had been rushed to the hospital with severe complications from a condition she'd been battling for months. The doctors said she would need to stay for several days, maybe even a week. The baby, little Lily, was only 6 months old and still needed constant care. Mr. David was supposed to return from his business trip to London the next day, but his flight had been delayed due to bad weather. He wouldn't be home until Thursday morning at the earliest. "Rosa, I know this is asking a lot," Mrs. Catherine had said over the phone from her hospital bed, her voice weak and worried. "But could you please stay with Lily tonight? I can't bear the thought of her being alone with just the night nurse. She doesn't know her well, and Lily gets so fussy with strangers." Rosa didn't hesitate for even a second. "Of course, ma'am. Don't you worry about anything. I'll take good care of her." She had raised 3 children of her own back in Guatemala before coming to work in the United States. Taking care of babies was something that came naturally to her. But as the evening went on, Rosa realized this night would be different from what she expected. Lily had been unusually cranky all day. She refused to eat properly, pushed away her toys, and cried whenever anyone tried to put her down. Even her favorite lullabies that usually worked like magic seemed to make her more upset. By 8 o'clock, when Lily should have been settling down for the night, she was crying so hard that her little face turned red. Rosa tried everything she could think of. She walked around the house with Lily in her arms, gently bouncing her and humming soft songs. She checked her diaper, tried giving her a bottle, and even called the family doctor for advice. The doctor said it sounded like Lily might be going through a growth spurt or possibly teething early, and that sometimes babies just had difficult nights. "Keep her comfortable and safe," the doctor had said. "If she has a fever or shows any other concerning symptoms, call me immediately. Otherwise, sometimes you just have to wait it out." As the hours passed, Rosa began to understand that this was going to be one of those long, difficult nights that every parent knows about. Lily would calm down for a few minutes in Rosa's arms, but the moment Rosa tried to put her in the crib, the crying would start again, even louder than before. By midnight, Rosa was exhausted. Her arms ached from carrying the baby for hours, and her feet hurt from walking back and forth across the nursery. But every time she looked down at Lily's tear-stained face, her heart broke a little. This wasn't just her job anymore. Over the 3 years she had worked for this family, she had watched Lily grow from a tiny newborn into the beautiful, curious baby she was now. She had been there for Lily's first smile, her first laugh, and her first time rolling over. Around 2 in the morning, Rosa made a decision that felt completely natural to her, even though she knew it might seem strange to others. She gently lowered herself onto the soft carpet of the nursery floor, still holding Lily close to her chest. The baby's crying immediately became softer, more like tired whimpering than the desperate wails from before. Rosa positioned herself, carefully, making sure Lily was completely safe and comfortable. She used one of the baby's soft blankets to create a little nest around them on the floor. Lily seemed to sense that something had changed. Maybe it was Rosa's steady heartbeat, or the warmth of being held so close, or simply the feeling of not being moved around anymore. Within minutes, Lily's breathing became deeper and more regular. Her tiny fists, which had been clenched tight with frustration all evening, slowly relaxed. Her head settled into the curve of Rosa's shoulder, and for the first time in hours, she fell into a peaceful sleep. Rosa knew she could have tried to move Lily to her crib now, but she also knew that any movement might wake her up and start the crying all over again. More than that, Rosa could feel how completely Lily trusted her in this moment. The baby's small body was completely relaxed against her, the way children only sleep when they feel absolutely safe and loved. So Rosa stayed exactly where she was. The floor was hard and cold, even with the carpet. Her back would definitely hurt in the morning, and she knew she would be stiff and sore. But none of that mattered compared to the peaceful expression on Lily's face. As she lay there in the dim light from the hallway, Rosa thought about her own children back home. Her oldest daughter was now 22 and had just graduated from university, something that wouldn't have been possible without the money Rosa sent home every month. Her youngest son was 15 and dreamed of becoming a doctor. Rosa worked so far from her own family so that they could have better opportunities, but moments like this reminded her why she chose this path. She thought about all the nights she had spent on floors just like this one, comforting her own babies when they were sick or scared or just couldn't sleep. She remembered how her mother had done the same thing for her and her siblings when they were young. Sometimes love meant making yourself uncomfortable so that someone else could be at peace. The house was completely quiet except for the soft sound of Lily's breathing and the distant hum of the air conditioning. Rosa found herself feeling grateful for this quiet moment, even though it came from such a difficult situation. In her busy days of cleaning and organizing, she didn't often get to just sit still and hold Lily like this. Around 4 in the morning, Lily stirred slightly but didn't wake up. Rosa gently adjusted her position to make sure the baby stayed comfortable, moving as little as possible. Her own body was getting numb from lying in the same position for so long, but she ignored the discomfort. She dozed off and on for the next few hours, always keeping one part of her mind alert to make sure Lily was safe. Every parent learns this skill of sleeping lightly when they're responsible for a child. Rosa had perfected it over years of raising her own children and then caring for other people's children. When the first light of dawn began to filter through the nursery windows, Rosa felt a sense of accomplishment. They had made it through the difficult night together. Lily was still sleeping peacefully, her face calm and relaxed. The crisis had passed, and both of them had survived it. Rosa had no idea that in just a few hours, this simple act of compassion would change her life forever. She was just doing what felt right in the moment, putting a child's needs before her own comfort. To her, it was the most natural thing in the world. But sometimes the most natural acts of love are also the most powerful ones. David Miller stood frozen in the doorway of his daughter's nursery, his briefcase still in his hand and his travel clothes wrinkled from the long flight. He had rushed straight home from the airport, worried sick about Lily after getting Rosa's text updates throughout the night about the baby's difficult evening. He had expected to find his daughter crying in her crib, or maybe Rosa walking the halls trying to calm her down. What he saw instead took his breath away and made something deep in his chest tighten with emotion he wasn't prepared for. There, on the soft pink carpet, Rosa lay curled on her side with Lily nestled safely against her chest. Both of them were sleeping peacefully, Rosa's dark hair spread across the small pillow she had somehow managed to grab from the rocking chair. Her arm was wrapped protectively around his daughter, and even in sleep, Her hand rested gently on Lily's back. David set his briefcase down quietly and just watched them. In the soft morning light filtering through the nursery windows, he could see the exhaustion on Rosa's face, the way her body was positioned awkwardly to make sure Lily stayed comfortable. He could see that Rosa had sacrificed her own comfort completely for his daughter's peace. This wasn't the first time David had noticed Rosa's extraordinary care for Lily, but something about seeing them like this hit him differently. Maybe it was because he had been away for 5 days, missing his daughter terribly, only to come home and find that Rosa had been giving Lily something he himself had been too busy to provide lately. He thought about the past few months and how work had consumed more and more of his time. There were board meetings that ran late into the evening, emergency calls that interrupted family dinners, and business trips that seemed to come one right after another. He provided well for his family, financially, but when was the last time he had spent an entire night just taking care of Lily when she needed comfort? David quietly pulled out his phone and almost took a picture of the peaceful scene, but stopped himself. This moment felt too private, too sacred to capture for social media or even his own memory. Instead, he just stood there and let himself really see what was happening. Rosa stirred slightly, probably sensing someone's presence even in her sleep. Her eyes opened slowly, and when she saw David standing there, she immediately started to sit up, careful not to disturb Lily. "Mr. David," she whispered, her voice hoarse from the long night. "I'm so sorry. I know this looks strange, but she was crying so much and nothing would calm her down. When I lay down with her, she finally fell asleep and I didn't want to move her and wake her up again." Rosa was clearly embarrassed and worried that she had overstepped some boundary. She started to explain everything that had happened the night before, how she had tried every other solution first, how the doctor had said it was normal but difficult. David held up his hand gently to stop her explanations. "Rosa, you don't need to apologize for anything. Thank you for taking such good care of her." But even as he said those words, David was processing something much bigger than just gratitude for one difficult night. He was realizing how much Rosa had been doing for his family that went far beyond her job description, and how much he had been taking it for granted. He remembered coming home from work weeks ago and finding Rosa in the kitchen, holding Lily while preparing dinner because the baby didn't want to be put down. He remembered Rosa staying late on multiple occasions when Catherine had doctor appointments, never once complaining or asking for extra pay. He remembered the way Rosa talked to Lily in both English and Spanish, teaching her little songs and words, helping her develop in ways that went beyond basic childcare. Most striking of all, David remembered how Lily's whole face would light up whenever Rosa walked into a room. His daughter had learned to recognize Rosa's voice and would calm down immediately when Rosa picked her up. For a 6-month-old baby, Rosa wasn't just a caregiver. She was family. As Rosa carefully transferred the still sleeping Lily to her crib, David found himself thinking about his own childhood. His parents had both worked demanding jobs, and he had been raised largely by a series of nannies and babysitters. Most of them had been kind and professional, but none of them had ever slept on the floor to comfort him. None of them had loved him the way Rosa clearly loved Lily. "How is Mrs. Catherine?" Rosa asked quietly as she covered Lily with a soft blanket. "She's stable, but she'll need to stay in the hospital for at least another week," David replied. "The doctors want to monitor her closely and adjust her medications." Rosa nodded, her face showing genuine concern. Over the 3 years she had worked for them, She had become invested in the whole family's well-being, not just Lily's. She asked about Catherine's health regularly and had even learned to cook some of Catherine's favorite comfort foods during her difficult days. "I can continue staying here with Lily at night if you need me to," Rosa offered without hesitation. "I know you have that important presentation next week that you've been preparing for." David felt a pang of shame. Yes, he did have an important presentation next week. It was for a potential merger that could increase his company's value by millions of dollars. But Rosa somehow knew about it and was already thinking about how to make sure his family responsibilities didn't interfere with his business obligations. When had he stopped being the kind of father who would cancel important meetings to take care of his sick child? When had he become someone who was grateful that his employee cared more about his daughter's emotional needs than he did? "Rosa," David said, his voice more serious than usual. "Can we talk in my office after Lily wakes up? I want to discuss something important with you." Rosa looked worried again. "Did I do something wrong? I promise I was just trying to help." "No, you did everything right. That's exactly what I want to talk to you about." The rest of the morning passed quietly. Lily woke up refreshed and happy, as if the difficult night had never happened. She babbled cheerfully in her crib and reached her arms up toward Rosa when she heard her voice. David watched Rosa's natural, loving interaction with his daughter and saw how Rosa's face softened with genuine affection every time Lily smiled at her. During breakfast, David found himself studying Rosa more carefully than he ever had before. She was probably in her early 40s, though she had never mentioned her exact age. Her hands showed the signs of years of hard work, but she moved around the kitchen with the efficient grace of someone who took pride in what she did. She hummed, quietly, while she prepared Lily's bottle, the same gentle tune he had heard her singing to his daughter many times before. David realized that in 3 years, he had never asked Rosa much about her own life. He knew she sent money to family in another country, and he knew she was incredibly reliable and trustworthy. But he had never asked about her dreams, her goals, or what she wanted for her own future. He thought about the company he had built from nothing into a billion-dollar enterprise. He had always been proud of his ability to recognize talent and potential in his employees, to see their value and invest in their growth. But somehow, he had failed to really see the person who was arguably the most important employee in his entire life. As he watched Rosa gently bouncing Lily on her knee and making silly faces that sent his daughter into giggles, David made a decision that surprised even him. This conversation they were going to have wouldn't just be about thanking Rosa for last night. It was going to be about recognizing everything she had been giving to his family and figuring out how to give something meaningful back to her. For the first time in months, David canceled his morning conference calls. Whatever Rosa wanted to tell him about her life, whatever dreams or needs or worries she had been keeping to herself, he was going to listen with the same attention he gave to million-dollar business deals, because he was finally beginning to understand that some things were worth more than money. 2 hours later, Rosa knocked softly on the door of David's home office. She had changed into a fresh uniform and pulled her hair back neatly, but David could still see the tiredness in her eyes from the sleepless night. Lily was napping peacefully, in her crib, finally back to her normal schedule. "Please sit down," David said, gesturing to the comfortable chair across from his desk. Rosa sat carefully on the edge of the seat, her hands folded in her lap. She still looked worried, despite his earlier reassurance. David had spent the past 2 hours thinking about how to start this conversation. He had handled countless business negotiations, but talking about personal matters had never been his strength. He decided to begin with simple honesty. "Rosa, I want you to know that what I saw this morning changed something for me," he began. "Not just because you took such good care of Lily, but because it made me realize how much you've been doing for our family that goes far beyond what we pay you for." Rosa looked confused. "Mr. David, I just do my job. Taking care of children is what comes naturally to me." "That's exactly what I mean," David said, leaning forward. "What you do isn't just a job. The way you care for Lily, the way you worry about Catherine when she's sick, the way you make our house feel like a real home, that's not something you can hire someone to do. That's something that comes from the heart." He paused, trying to find the right words. "I've been thinking about my own childhood this morning. My parents were successful people, but they were always busy. I had nannies and housekeepers, but none of them ever loved me the way you love Lily. None of them would have slept on a hard floor just to make sure I felt safe and comfortable." Rosa's eyes filled with tears, but she tried to blink them away. "Lily is a special little girl. It's easy to love her." "Tell me about your own family, Rosa," David said gently. "In all the time you've worked for us, I realize I've never asked you enough about your own life." Rosa hesitated for a moment, then began to speak slowly. "I have 3 children back in Guatemala, Mr. David. My oldest daughter, Carmen, just finished university last month. She studied to be a teacher, and now she has a good job in the city. My middle son, Miguel, is 17 and wants to study engineering. And my youngest, Isabella, is 12 and loves to read and write stories." David listened carefully, noting how Rosa's voice changed when she talked about her children. The same warmth and love that she showed Lily was there when she spoke about Carmen, Miguel, and Isabella. "I also take care of my mother," Rosa continued. "She's 73 and has diabetes. The medicine is expensive, and she needs regular doctor visits. That's why I came to work here in the United States. The money I can earn here is enough to support all of them and pay for Carmen's education." "How long has it been since you've seen them?" David asked. Rosa was quiet for a long moment. 2 years and 4 months, she said finally. "I talk to them on video calls every week, but it's not the same. Isabella was only 10 when I left. She's grown so much, and I've missed so many important moments." David felt his chest tighten as he imagined missing 2 years of Lily's life. 2 years meant missing her first steps, her first words, her first day of school. All the moments that parents treasure were moments Rosa had sacrificed to take care of his family. "Do you have pictures of them?" he asked. Rosa's face lit up for the first time during their conversation. She pulled out her phone and showed David photo after photo. Carmen in her graduation cap and gown, beaming with pride. Miguel playing soccer, with friends, tall and lanky like a typical teenager. Isabella holding up a story she had written, her gap-toothed smile showing where she had lost baby teeth. "Isabella wants to be a writer," Rosa said with obvious pride. "She sends me her stories every week. They're written in Spanish, but she's learning English too. She says she wants to write books that children in both Guatemala and America can read." David studied the photos and saw Rosa's features reflected in all 3 of her children. He saw the same kindness in Carmen's eyes, the same determination in Miguel's expression, the same joy in Isabella's smile. "Rosa, can I ask you something personal?" David said. "What do you dream about for your future? If you could have anything you wanted, what would it be?" Rosa looked surprised by the question. She was quiet for a long time, as if no one had ever Asked her this before. I dream about my children having opportunities I never had, she said finally. I want Miguel to go to university and become an engineer like he dreams. I want Isabella to keep writing and maybe publish her stories someday. I want to be able to take care of my mother properly, so she doesn't have to worry about money for her medicine. She paused, then added quietly, and I dream about being together with them again. Maybe someday bringing them here, or going back to them when they're all grown and settled. I know it might take many more years of saving money, but I keep hoping. David felt something shift inside him as he listened to Rosa's simple, heartfelt dreams. Here was a woman who had given up everything to provide for her family. Just like he worked hard to provide for his. The difference was that Rosa had sacrificed being with the people she loved most, while David had somehow lost sight of what was truly important, even though his family was right here with him. Rosa, what if... I told you that you wouldn't have to wait many more years, David said carefully. What if there was a way to make those dreams happen sooner? Rosa looked at him with confusion and a little fear. I don't understand, Mr. David. David took a deep breath. I've been thinking about our family's situation. Catherine is going to need more help when she comes home from the hospital. Lily is growing and will need more attention and guidance. And honestly, I've realized that I've been so focused on work that I've been missing too much of my daughter's life. He stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the garden where he had planned to teach Lily to ride a bike someday, to have tea parties, to play catch. What I'm about to propose might sound unusual, but I want you to hear me out completely. Before you say anything... Rosa nodded, her eyes wide with curiosity and nervousness. I want to offer you something that goes beyond a typical employer-employee relationship, David continued. I want to help bring your family here to the United States. I want to pay for Miguel's engineering education and support Isabella's writing dreams. I want to make sure your mother gets the best medical care available. Rosa gasped and put her hand to her mouth. Mr. David, that's too much. I could never accept such generosity. Please, let me finish, David said gently. This isn't charity, Rosa. This is recognition of what you've already given to our family. You've loved my daughter like she was your own. You've made our house a home. You've sacrificed time with your own children to take care of mine. He turned back to face her. What I'm proposing is that you officially become Lily's nanny and live-in caregiver, with a salary that reflects the true value of what you do. But more than that, I want our families to be connected. I want your children to have the same opportunities my daughter will have. Rosa was crying now, but trying to stay composed. I don't know what to say. This is more than I ever dreamed possible. There's one more thing, David said. Seeing you with Lily this morning made me realize that I need to be a better father. I'm going to restructure my work schedule so I can spend more time at home. I want to learn from you, Rosa. I want to learn how to love my daughter the way you do, completely and without reservation. The room was quiet except for the soft sound of Rosa's tears. David waited patiently for her to process everything he had said. Finally, Rosa looked up at him with eyes full of gratitude and hope. Mr. David, if you really mean this, if this isn't just a kind gesture that you might regret later, then yes, yes to all of it. My children deserve these opportunities, and I promise you that I will love and protect Lily for as long as you'll... Let me. David smiled, feeling lighter than he had in years. Then let's start making some phone calls. I think it's time to turn dreams into reality. 6 months later, The Miller household looked completely different from what it had been before that life-changing night. The most obvious change was the addition of 3 new family members, but the transformation went much deeper than anyone could have expected. Isabella, Rosa's 12-year-old daughter, was the first to arrive. David still remembered the day he and Rosa picked her up from the airport. The little girl had clutched a worn backpack containing all her belongings and a notebook filled with stories written in her careful handwriting. She was shy at first, overwhelmed by the big house and the new country, but within days she was chattering away in a mixture of Spanish and English, teaching Lily new words and making everyone laugh with her creative stories. Miguel came next, just in time for the start of the school year. At 17, he was more reserved than his sister, but his eyes lit up when David showed him the engineering books they had ordered and the computer setup in what was now his bedroom. He spent hours studying and practicing English, determined to make the most of the opportunity he had been given. Carmen, the oldest, arrived last, after finishing her teaching contract in Guatemala. She brought Rosa's elderly mother, Abuela Ana, who had been nervous about leaving the only home she had ever known. But when Ana saw how happy Rosa was, how her daughter's face glowed with contentment for the first time in years, she settled into the sunny room they had prepared for her with surprising ease. The house that had once been quiet and formal now buzzed with activity in multiple languages. Lily, now 1 year old and starting to walk, toddled around calling Mama Rosa and Mama Ana with equal enthusiasm. She was learning Spanish almost as quickly as English, and her vocabulary included words like abuela and hermana that she used to address her extended family. David had kept his promise about restructuring his work schedule. He now worked from home 3 days a week and made sure to be present for important moments. He was the one who saw Lily take her first real steps, and he was learning to braid her hair from watching Rosa and Isabella do it together. The biggest surprise for David was how much he enjoyed having a full house. Growing up as an only child in a quiet, formal home, he had never experienced the warm chaos of a large, loving family. Now there were family dinners where everyone talked at once, weekend movie nights with subtitles in both languages, and celebrations. For every small achievement, Isabella had enrolled in the local middle school and was already winning writing contests. Her English teacher was amazed by her natural storytelling ability and had recommended her for the advanced creative writing program. Isabella still wrote stories in Spanish for her grandmother, but now she was also writing in English and dreaming, bigger than ever before. Miguel was thriving in his advanced placement classes and had already caught the attention of several universities. David had introduced him to some engineers from his own company, and Miguel spent Saturday mornings shadowing them, learning about real-world applications of the theories he was studying. His quiet determination reminded David of his own younger self, hungry for knowledge and opportunity. Carmen had found work as a bilingual teacher in a local elementary school, where her gentle nature and cultural background made her incredibly popular with both students and parents. She was saving money to pursue a master's degree in education, with David's encouragement and financial support. Abuela Ana had become the unofficial grandmother of the neighborhood. Despite speaking very little English, she had a way with children that transcended language barriers. She spent her mornings tending a vegetable garden that had transformed the backyard, and her afternoons teaching Lily and the neighbor children traditional songs and games. Catherine had recovered fully from her health scare and had embraced the changes in their household with surprising enthusiasm. She had always wanted more children, but had struggled with fertility issues after Lily. Now she found herself with a ready-made extended family that filled the house with the laughter and warmth she had always craved. "I never imagined our family would look like this," Catherine told David one evening as they watched Rosa and Isabella teaching Lily to dance to Spanish music in the living room. "But I can't imagine it any other way now." David nodded, understanding exactly what she meant. The formal, quiet life they had lived before seemed almost empty in comparison to the rich, vibrant family they had become. The changes weren't just happening inside the house. David found that having Rosa's family around had changed his perspective on his business as well. He started paying closer attention to the working conditions and family needs of his employees. He instituted new policies for parental leave and childcare support, remembering how Rosa had sacrificed time with her own children to care for other people's families. He also became involved in immigration advocacy, using his resources and connections to help other families navigate the complex process of reunification. The lawyer who had helped bring Rosa's family to the United States now worked with a foundation David had established to provide similar assistance to other deserving families. Rosa herself had blossomed in ways that surprised everyone, including herself. With her family finally together and her financial worries eased, she had enrolled in English classes at the local community college. She was studying to become a certified child care provider, with dreams of eventually opening her own bilingual daycare center. "I want to help other working parents," she explained to David when she told him about her plans. "I know what it's like to worry about your children while you're working. I want to create a place where parents can feel completely confident that their children are safe and loved." David was more than supportive of Rosa's dreams. He was already helping her research the licensing requirements and had offered to help finance the daycare when she was ready to open it. 1 year after that night, when David found Rosa sleeping on the floor with Lily, the family gathered to celebrate Lily's 2nd birthday. The backyard was decorated with colorful balloons and banners in both English and Spanish. Neighbors, friends, and co-workers mingled with Rosa's family, creating a warm, multicultural celebration that reflected what the Miller household had become. Lily, now a confident toddler, moved easily between Spanish and English as she played with the other children. She called David Daddy and Rosa Mama Rosa, but she also had special names for everyone else in her extended family. Isabella was Bella, Miguel was Migue, Carmen was Carme, and Abuela Ana was simply Buela. As David watched his daughter blow out her candles with help from all her mothers and fathers, he reflected on how dramatically his definition of family had expanded. He thought about the man he had been 2 years ago, focused solely on business, success, and financial achievement, and barely recognized that person. The most profound change was in his relationship with Lily herself. Instead of being a weekend father who provided financially but missed the daily moments, he was now deeply involved in her everyday life. He knew her favorite songs, her preferred bedtime stories, and the exact way she liked her hair brushed in the morning. "Daddy, look!" Lily called out, running toward him with a flower crown that Isabella had made for her. "I'm a princess!" David scooped her up and spun her around, delighting in her giggles. "You're the most beautiful princess in the world," he told her, and meant every word. Later that evening, after the guests had gone home and the children were in bed, David sat on the back porch with Rosa, Catherine, and Carmen, watching the fireflies in Abuela Ana's garden. "Do you ever regret it?" Rosa asked quietly. "Having so many people in your house? So much noise and chaos?" David looked through the window at Isabella reading to Lily in the living room, while Miguel helped Abuela Ana with her evening medications. He thought about the laughter that filled the house every day, the multiple languages being spoken at the dinner table, and the way Lily was growing up surrounded by so much love and cultural richness. Never, he said firmly. This is what family is supposed to feel like. I just wish it had taken me so long to figure that out. Rosa smiled and patted his hand. Sometimes the best things come when we're not looking for them. That night when Lily was crying, I wasn't trying to change our lives. I was just trying to help a baby feel better. David nodded, thinking about how a single act of love and selflessness had transformed not just two lives, but an entire extended family. Sometimes the smallest acts of love create the biggest changes, he said. Thank you, Rosa, for showing me what really matters. As they sat together in comfortable silence, David knew that this was just the beginning of their story as a family. There would be challenges ahead, cultural differences to navigate, and growing pains as everyone adjusted to their new life together. But they would face it all as a family, united by love, mutual respect, and the knowledge that they were all better together than they had ever been apart.